I'm still trying to breathe, so please understand that, okay? I have met so many people. I've never met more people in 2 days in my entire life. And I have so many new friends, I don't know what to do about it. And I just love being here, and I promise you're gonna see me next year, and the next year, and the next year, and if I'm still fogging a mirror, as they say, the next year too, okay? So again, I'm honored to be here, and I also, as always, I want to thank Her Highness and the Foundation, because were it not for you, I would not be here, and truly, my life is a different life as a consequence of what has just happened. Thank you. Yeah. I think that for all of us who work with children and all of us who have children, and we're about to go back and see our first grandchild, who will be 1 year old in a couple of days. We like him quite a bit. He's very impressed with himself, by the way, and he should be. But meeting all of you has really been a gem for me. And I think that that the question for us all is, how are we going to educate students in the future? I mean, I have been doing this for 40 years, and the world is changing, but schools are not. And how are we going to take that on? In that regard, how do we do it? I have had this curious life of having been head of the oldest high school in America, though I was not there in the 1600s when it opened. I might be older, but not that old. And it was right in between MIT and Harvard. And it was a 6-story building where the wealthiest students were on the top floor. And the carpentry students with me were in the basement. It's much like an apartment building in a certain type of way in terms of, as a social notation. The students that I had tended to be more of color and more diverse than the students upstairs, not. And I was there through teaching carpentry, which is what I love and love to this day, as you saw the other day. What's different about me is that for some reason I went to law school prior to that. I'm a member of the Massachusetts Bar and the United States Bar. It's actually very good when I have a conflictual parent who's not happy about something in the school, because they bring a lawyer in and they see I'm a lawyer and everything gets settled quite nicely, okay, all of a sudden. So what are we trying to do with our children, given that the world is changing so fast? When I went to law school to study prisoners' rights. I made a documentary film for public broadcasting when I was young about the oldest prison in the United States. It was a very, very ugly place. And I made a film about it. And I decided to go to law school after that to study prisoners' rights. What I failed to realize was that when the film was shown, they closed the prison, and I should have realized that making a film had more power than becoming a lawyer. But that was another moment where I kind of missed it. It does help to be an attorney sometimes anyway. So what are we trying to do in the future for our children, okay? For me, I think that we need to understand the industries that kids are working on. Because I've had many conversations with you from many countries who are interested in how to educate the core of students who are not being represented or being misrepresented. And so we came up with a couple of things that I'm going to share with you about how to do that when I worked as a lawyer at Harvard, which I also did. We did something called the School to Work Opportunities Act, because the United States, too, at that point, was trying to increase the number of kids that were going into some of these different sectors. So we came up with the following sentence: students will gain strong experience in and understanding of all aspects of an industry, including finance, planning, management, underlying principles of technology, labor issues, health and safety issues, environmental issues as they pertain to that industry. Why did we do that? Because we don't want to ask a 17-year-old to predict what they're going to be when they grow up, because the statistical possibility of that is just absolutely so slight. So we want them to feel that they could go in any direction and do anything. So what happened was that then I worked at Harvard for a while, and then I went back to the high school again, this time as the principal. They're really very close to each other. So if you think I mentioned yesterday that I wish my parents were here, I still do, but they were scratching their heads about these moves back and forth quite a bit. So I then, under the Clinton administration, there was a contract that I got with some other colleagues called the New American High School. And our job was to find and describe and design models for new urban high schools for the United States. It was a fascinating effort. We went all around the country looking at schools, and when we finished, we came up with these design principles, which I will find here in 1 second, which are the schools that my schools today are based on. Number 1, equity. Students from all backgrounds learn together. Number 2, personalization. Each student is respected, known well, and listened to. 3, authentic work. Learning takes the form of real projects and work that matters. 4th, collaborative design. Teachers are empowered to work together to design their own curriculum. That is exactly what happens in our high-tech high schools. A couple of words before you see some work. So we built one school, and somehow we landed up building 16 schools because, as I said, we probably weren't paying attention. And several people have asked me, and I appreciate it, whether we would do a high-tech high in their country. And we made a decision that flying to a school was not responsible, that we ran. And so we decided that what we would do would be to open ourselves up to the world. We're all of the world. We're all equally of the world, and that's exactly what we do. And that's why we have, as I've mentioned, 5,000 accepted visitors every year from all over the world. And many people, I'm looking forward to coming to our school from the conversations we've had. And there are many people, because of what I have now gotten in this grant, may I say it, that honors me, is I want to fly to a lot of your schools because I am an internationalist. I was born as one, from parents from different relations, from different countries, and I am through and through. So I want to show you a little bit of work, and then I want to. I'm supposed to do it myself. So here we go. They only showed me 7 times how to do this. Okay, so it maybe 12, and it would have, kind of made it in. Okay, I'm just so excited about all. I'm like a child. I think that's why I love working with children. Maybe I never really grew up. Okay, so here we go. Okay, this is an interesting project that was done by some 9th graders who were sending up GoPro cameras up above our school. Their schools are right there. You can just see at the end of that little line down on the left. And they went up about a foot, and then they would pop, and they would, from being in thin air, and then they would love going into the trees and trying. They didn't find them all the time, but sometimes they'd find them, and then we would have all of these studies that came out of them. Here's another one. Now, the mountain in the background is Mexico. There's no fence. Did you notice that, by the way? I just want to point that out. And listen, to be perfectly honest, in 1850, Mexico was stolen from Mexico. And given to the United States. There's not even a false narrative about that. And I love being proximate to Mexico. We have many, many, many students from Mexico, and it's a marvelous place. But the problem there was that those are new buildings that we built, elementary, middle, high, and we had a problem. And the problem was kind of interesting. There were a lot of mice running around, and we didn't know what, this is one of the buildings. So we, by the way, for those of you who are architects, I'm a carpenter, remember, the iconic elements of all of our schools are height, light, and revealed structure. That's a conversation I could have with any of you if you want, but this is a classic example of height, light, and revealed structure. Kids can breathe in it, okay? And then next is, here's this young lady. They found out that this type, that in order to, that they needed a certain type of bird that would come in and eat the mice, okay? So they did a study about that, and they found out that there was a certain type of bird that would do it, and that those birds liked certain types of boxes to live in, and they built the boxes, and they put them, and then they put them around the property, and the kids got rid of the mice by themselves. That's what we're basically trying to do in our schools. This is another interesting one. This is well, you'll see it's a multi-layered map that at the top is San Diego, where our school is. At the bottom is the Mexican border. A 6th grade teacher had an idea. Why don't I rent a bus? And since we have so many mixed background kids, why don't we, which we cherish, why don't we drive them down to the border and drop them off with their teacher and have them walk north as far as they can in one day and take pictures and take notes about how much it looks like the US and how much it looks like Mexico. And then the bus would pick them up, take them home, and then the next morning drop them off where they last were. It took 6 trips by the bus, and then they wrote all about the variations and similarities of Mexico and the United States. Okay, and here it's multi-dimensional and rather intent. Okay, so now before I go further, in our work, when I was, let me try to find something. Excuse me, I'm going to show you one more thing before I'm done. Hold on. Okay, did I do the design principles already? I did, thank you. Okay, I'm a little nervous up here. I'm human, okay? What I want to show you next, thank you. Yes, I am. Okay, so what I now want to show you, which you will find fairly interesting, is some short clips. And I think from everything that I've heard from somebody in the front row, kids' voices are essential to what we're doing. We have to really listen to children. They know so much. They see things so much more clearly than we do, sometimes to our embarrassment. And that's what we cherish about them. And we have to protect them as they grow into this world that we've all agreed upon is becoming a little bit more dangerous, unfortunately, every day. So I would like you to take a look at this short little clip where we asked children to talk about schooling. Listen to what they had to say.
If I could choose how I am taught, I would want a teacher that I can talk to, that I can relate to and approach.
My advice for teachers is to understand what your students want to be learning and get their feedback on the ways you're teaching.
I also want to be taught in a way that is not for the state standard.
I know that a lot of teachers out there like to give lectures. I would recommend not doing that. No, none of that.
If you just tell them what to do and you give them a worksheet and they're just going to forget it the next day.
Teach kids to ask questions.
Let them be kids.
Out of the thank you. I always loved that little guy who said, no, don't try that. Before I leave you, I promise to see you many times again. There's something that was written by John Dewey in 1916 that I have in my wall right next to my desk so that I see it every morning. It's not very long, but I brought it because I want to read it to you. There is no such thing as genuine knowledge and fruitful understanding except as the offspring of doing. People have to do something to the things they wish to find out about. They have to alter conditions. This is the lesson of the laboratory method, and this is the lesson which all education has to learn. Finally, our children need us. We all need to help them. Let's do it together. Thank you very much.